All right, so let's move on to our first topic here. Let's talk about Punisher season 1. Now, I've seen it. I've seen all season 1. Dusty, have you seen all of season 1?
I have.
Okay, and 90s, how far did you get?
I'm still on those 2 episodes, man.
Holy shit. Okay. All right. Because we about to delve. You care about spoilers at all?
No, I don't care, man. Like this isn't when it comes to the Marvel Netflix shows. I think I've said it in the past. Like they're not my forte. I watch them because other people watch them.
Okay. All right. Okay. So me and 90s, we talked about Punisher a little bit last week. Dusty, you want to start us off? Like how you feel about season 1?
No. Why don't you start? We usually start with me. Why don't we try it with you this time?
Okay. So right off the bat, I think John Bernthal is really great as the Punisher. I think,
I agree.
Looking at all the different Punishers, I haven't seen the Dolph Lundgren Punisher, but like Thomas Jane and Ray Stevenson, I'd say to me he's one of the best Punishers. I mean, easily. And I think he presents that sheer force of nature that the Punisher really is supposed to be. And I think what this series does a good job at also is showing the vulnerable side of the Punisher. Showing more softer moments with him, moments where, he's maybe laughing, moments where, he can be emotional. Because that was my initial concern coming into the show of will he be rampaging the whole time? And I was like, well, that would maybe get kind of boring and repetitive if they do that same thing. But this one, they show him, kind of as a normal guy some of the times, like when he's like going over to Micro's family's home, he's fixing cars and fixing the broken garage door, and
So he keeps coming back there.
Yeah, he keeps coming back there. Like the stuff you're on episode 2. I'd say about 4 or 5, episode 2 to 45. Yeah, it gets a little repetitive because he keeps just going back to that family, and then him and Micro, kind of banter back and forth, and he keeps going back to the family. And
is he trying to fuck Micro's wife?
No, he's not trying to fuck his wife. No, he's not. He's just like, it's, I think, a little bit of him just keeping tabs on his family for him,
Okay.
a little bit. And also, I mean, it could be probably a little bit of him missing his own family and getting a chance to, because Michael's family also has a son and a daughter, like he had a son and a daughter.
Okay.
So it's, I think, a little bit of that. And the best parts of the series are the Punisher and Micro. Like, Micro, played by Evan Moss Bacharach, they're really great. Like, whenever the series focuses on them and when they're ever hanging out and they're talking together, that's always the best part of it. The issue comes where they divert from them and they focus on something else. And the main issue I raised last week when I talked about the Punisher and talked about when I had watched only episode 1 through 7 is the Homeland Security stuff and how, and how bad that was and how boring that was. And, the people leading that, Amber Rose Reva, who's playing Dina Medina, and she's the main Homeland Security person. And then her partner, Medina.
Madani. I'm sorry, Madani.
Madani. Yeah, Madani. And then her partner, Michael Nathanson, who's playing Sam Stein, who was really awful. I thought that dude was really awful.
I thought Michael, if I step in just quick, I thought he was all right. Like, I thought not the actor, not the character.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe the writing, because it seems like they were trying to make him.
He was the most cliche of the bunch. He was the most cliche. I mean, even among the security, the Homeland Security, like, oh well, I did something. Well, what exactly did you do? We're not going to get into that right now.
Yeah, yeah, because it is very much like that. Because I feel like they were trying to make him foggy, how he was in Daredevil. Trying to make
he ain't gonna be no foggy.
Like how he's trying to be like the jokester a little bit and that stuff. And a lot of the jokes that he had just came off as just lame and just not funny. None of the stuff he ever said was funny. And I think those actors maybe not necessarily bad. Maybe the writing and the situation just fails them. Because like I say, when they go back to the Homeland Security stuff, that feels such like a CBS type show.
It does.
Where it's just like this basic kind of writing type of stuff.
Meanwhile, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much like some NCIS stuff like that. Just basic
But even
cop
NCIS is
stuff.
better writing than them.
That's
Just
true.
basic cop stuff. I'm like, okay. I mean,
Like,
that's
people complain about Iron Fist, but in my opinion, that was worse.
no. I think the board meetings with Iron Fist and his family, and I mean his
I think
the
there
other
was
two
there
people.
was more tension there than there were at all. At least they weren't repeating themselves a billion times. We gotta fight Frank Castle. We gotta find him. Is that Frank Castle? Is it alive? Well, who's doing this?
Yeah, I mean they do a lot of that, but I still would rather watch that. I do not want to go back with them board meetings and them. I do not want to go back and
Alright,
do
whatever.
that.
I don't blame you.
But I mean that's a really weak element in the show, and they go to that Homeland Security stuff and they do all that.
It feels like it has, like they want it, and the level of it has to be there. And in a way, it has to. But there were way better ways they could have done it.
Yeah, I mean I understand why they switched to it because you need some
Right.
type of government agency that is
I
probably
mean, like,
chasing Frank
people-
Castle.
right.
And, yeah,
People
to get
can't
some
just
tips.
keep dropping like flies and no one bats an eye.
Right, and yeah, so you need some type of government aid to come in. And but another, going back to like more stuff I liked. I thought the way they illustrated, like the whole PTSD amongst veterans, I thought that was pretty good. And them, elaborating like what happens when a soldier does come home and their feelings, and specifically with the character Curtis, of how he's running like this whole little, kind of little group for people who suffer from that, and how, I love the line where he says, when I'm talking to them, I'm talking to myself because I'm trying to also get through these things because he lost a leg over in Iraq, like he lost a leg, and he's kind of still suffering, some of the effects of that and the feelings of that, and I think that's really good. I also really enjoy because Ben Barnes, who plays Billy Russo. Now, how did you feel about him at all, Dusk? Did you like him as Billy Russo? Did you like what they changed that character into?
For the most part, I felt it was fine. The actor was fairly fit the part fairly well, I would say. His origin in the comics I read up was fairly simplistic.
Right.
He's just a mob killer.
Mhm.
He looks very beautiful, so they call him Billy the Beaut.
Right.
And well, he meets Frank Castle and he gets the crap kicked out of him, and well, he ends up scarred and his face torn to shreds, and he has it repaired, and he is as ugly in the inside as he is on the outside.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be with this. It adds more levity to it. He's not just a mob killer. I think that would have been fairly played out at this point, and having him more be a military individual or having experienced with Frank Castle over time, I think that adds more levity to his character and adds more pathos between the two.
Yeah.
And it makes you care more for him, even though he's not always a good guy.
Right. Yeah, because they changed it here because, like you were saying, he was a mob boss in the comics. They changed it here to
He's a mob hitman.
Yeah, mob hitman, and then now he's like a special forces. He was a special forces soldier working with Frank Castle over in the Middle East, over in Kandahar, and he was working with him, and they were really close, best friends, to the point where Billy Russo's character hung out with Frank Castle's family.
Yeah,
like
Uncle
Frank,
Billy.
Yeah, like they considered him a part of the family.
Okay.
And I like that change. I think it was good. Like you said, I think if they made him just a strict mob boss, I thought maybe that would have probably been a little bit too tired, a little too played out. But
They honestly did the connection they needed to with the mob boss in the first episode
yeah, because
fairly well. It's very quick, and everything that was
Yeah.
kind of explained for Daredevil season 2, any of those kind of mob connections were already kind of pre-established.
Yeah.
So there really wasn't a need to kind of add more to it. You're kind of done.
yeah, pretty much. So yeah. So having somebody like that with him, they changed. I think that was a good change. Pretty much. So for you, what are the big issues with the show going on? Like, cons of the show would you say? Like things that really stuck out?
I would say some of the pacing.
Mm-hmm.
The pacing in the end, the series takes so much time in the first few episodes that the pacing tends to drag very much through the middle and near the last end.
Okay.
For everyone who's interested in finding the Punisher or wants to see the Punisher from the comics, you only really get 3 episodes where he's the Punisher.
Right.
And you either are okay with that or not. I think for the most part, how they treated him in the very beginning, I thought was very well done. Him trying to readjust into society after things have kind of panned out.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. That's fair enough. And you kind of have to. This isn't the comics where, okay, he just shows up, he's a force of nature, and that's it. You got to humanize him a little bit. Got to make him care. But I felt like, as good as John Berthel was, I just didn't care after a certain point.
Why you say that?
It's not John Berthel's fault necessarily. I think it's the writing and how they kind of drag it out. They're making him kind of do things that the character is uncomfortable with. And honestly, when you compare him to the other characters, there really isn't a big moment where you kind of go, you're shown very early. All right, he did these horrible things. I mean, horrible things.
Right.
And yet he doesn't really get punished for it himself. He's yelling about how angry it is and how you've taken from me. There's never a point where anyone goes, well, man, you screwed over other people too. It's implied that, oh, he feels bad for it. But I don't come to a TV show to watch implications. That's usually in a book. In a book form, you can have a long period of time to show implications and subtext. In a series, you need to establish that fairly early on, that there are other characters who see him, but everyone seems to prop him up more often, especially Micro. Well, that makes sense for his character and for his whole arc. And I do like him and Micro. I actually think they're one of the best reasons for the show. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think, in all honesty, they make the show.
Right.
And without Micro, this would have been a worse slog to get through.
Yeah.
Because he really is. I don't mind. Sorry, what did you want to say?
No, I can just see that because they seem to have whereas like a movie like Deadpool, he can carry his own. Like I like Deadpool and Cable, and with Painkiller, with I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name. Punisher. Yes, I'm like calling him Painkiller. With Punisher, I can see that he needs that team dynamic or whatever, like somebody.
Yeah, he needs. That.
Yeah, he's too much of a two-dimensional character. Well, they give him some depth, which is nice. I do appreciate the Punisher gets depth and he gets to be a little more human. There are moments where I just kind of shrug and go, all right, yeah, I understand you're trying to humanize him, but I don't care. I'd rather focus on, if you're just going to humanize somebody, I'd rather focus on Micro. Like, Micro's portrayal in this series is much more interesting, and I find his plight that more heartbreaking. But I do like that they call him a hypocrite. Punisher, several other people pointed out, he's being somewhat of hypocritical, but he does have his reasons. The Punisher never really gets called for being a hypocrite. Like, you're a special forces guy that did horrible, awful things, and then for horrible, awful things happen to you. Karma, maybe? But they never kind of bring it up, and it's kind of washed aside. And so I just kind of didn't care. I didn't care about his character, and maybe that was the point. But if they were going to do that, they should have just made him just an awful, awful character, so I wouldn't have to care either way. And but they do try to humanize him, and so it's conflicting. They're not really setting on either, and that even goes to the way the series resolves itself. I was actually thrown aback, like, this is the ending. This is how we're gonna end it, with kind of like a. I don't want to spoil anything because we haven't got to the session, but it really kind of left me reeling a bit, not in a good way. Like, really, that's it? That's what you're gonna end on? So. For that would be one of my bigger gripes. Is Frank Castle as a character, I think, is fine, but honestly, I don't really think he can carry an entire series by himself.
Right.
His supporting cast is great, though. I will say, Michael Shep, as you mentioned, he's great.
When Deborah Ann Wolf, when she comes back as Karen Page, I think she's really great. I think they have a great
for the few
relationship.
scenes she gets, along Rosario Dawson. There's three characters that I really consider as the tadpoles that kind of hold the TV series up, and that's Kate, Rosario Dawson's character is the night nurse, and Turk.
She's in everything.
Yeah, she's usually that, but she wasn't in this. This was the only Netflix show that Rosario Dawson was in.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah, which is, you know what? I'm happy. I'm happy she wasn't there. She did not belong there.
Okay, I can see that.
Right.
No, like she barely, like when they brought her in for Iron Fist, I actually was one of the few people who said, you know what, she is one of the best reasons to be in the show, but she has no reason to be here.
Yeah. Punisher, I thought for a moment they were gonna bring in because there's numerous times where he does get shot up and injured, and I thought,
yeah, but you know what, I'm glad. I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they restrained themselves a little bit.
I don't know how he would work with her though. Like, how would that conversation go?
She probably wouldn't help him. Well, the other is it's kind of, oh, well, you're heroes. You're trying to figure this thing out. This guy's a straight up murderer.
Yeah.
Even her, she has her own code, and she'd be like, all right, I healed him. Get him the hell out of here.
Yeah, he's not even a bad man. He really has no powers. He just
he's a straight up murderer. I would say also psychopath.
Yeah, I think they kind of hint at the fact that he enjoys, like, he was probably always like this even before he joined the Marines. Like, the Marines was just something to channel his energy, his anger into something maybe sort of kind of positive, maybe. And then, because towards the end of the series, he has a choice to make, and he chooses revenge over, I think, something that he's always wanted to be. So it's like, which more does he love more?
Is it like revenge over salvation?
Revenge over, because, we're about to spoil it because the show's been out long enough.
Yeah.
Right. Well, maybe we should talk just a little bit before we do that.
Okay, sure.
Just real quick, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the smaller side characters, just to give them a little shine. I thought the guy who played Lewis was pretty good.
Yeah, he's really good.
Another vet post, and I liked what's the guy's name? I'm trying to look. Jason R. Moore as Curtis.
Yep. I
thought they did a good job, and I think overall the side characters were good. I felt the soundtrack was a little more subdued, but I didn't mind. I was fairly forgettable though, the soundtrack, if I'm gonna be honest.
Thought there was gonna be a lot more hard rock in it.
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be more hard rock, horror, even like down pedal metal, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe lower tempo metal, but they didn't even do that. It was just kind of out there, and I was just like, oh, okay, that's a little shame. But overall, I would say that we would have to go into more spoilers now if we wanted to talk about it. But I just wanted to put it out there that if you hadn't seen it, I do think it's a pretty okay series so far. But I'll let you go and take it.
Yeah. So you're saying with the whole character, because he does say how he enjoyed being in the military, how he enjoyed being surrounded by the blood, the guts, the bullets. Like, he enjoyed that more than spending time with his own family. And towards the second to last episode, he has a choice of, because he's being tortured by the main villain. What's the name of the main villain?
Agent Orange.
Yeah, Agent Orange. William Rollins, who's the director of the covert operations of the CIA, the guy who was in charge of Frank Castle when he was over there in the Middle East. And the guy's torturing him, and he's torturing him so bad. He's about to die, and he's envisioning his wife. And he has a choice to make the decision to go home to his wife or choose revenge and stay there and get his revenge. And he chooses the revenge. We had a perfect opportunity to go home.
Wait, so his wife was alive through this whole series?
No, she was dead. He was having a vision of his wife.
Okay.
While
he has visions occasionally of his kids and his wife that just don't go away.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was envisioning his wife at that moment. And he had that choice to go home to her, which is, essentially die or pick revenge, and he picked that revenge. And boy, did he get his revenge. Because when you see that, it was brutal. It was bad. So
my question is, did he emote? Did he show any emotion? Because with the first two episodes that I did see, it's like he's grungy. I don't know what's the best word to say, but he's just like, I'm killing because I'm killing.
Yeah,
I would say similar to stoic.
Yeah, that's a better way to say it. That's a perfect word.
I mean, we see him with his wife. I mean, or they do flashback because sometimes they do a little bit of flashback when he's with his kids and stuff like that. I mean,
He tends to pick his daughter over his son a lot more. I thought was interesting.
uh,
To so much you forget that he had a son. There's a scene at one point he mentions his son,
Oh yeah.
and he does bring that later that like I think he feels worse for his son because he was such a shitty father.
I mean, his son was kind of a little bit an asshole.
Yeah, but
I mean,
yeah, I mean to be fair, he was also left all alone and with only good war stories. Most kids are assholes.
yeah, because like
Yeah.
like there's a scene with him and the kids on the
Oh shit,
ferry.
we just lost monetization.
There's like the scene when like Punch is on the ferry with his kids.
He was about to throw his son overboard, man.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, Daddy loves to kill those towel heads. What was it? I mean, I don't know what he said some racial kind of slur or something like that. Yeah,
Splash! Now your only child, daughter.
Right. And then he literally grabs him by the neck, holding him up, like about to snap it. It's like, you hear me?
yeah. I mean, hey, that's
He's like a rabid dog. If there's like a sound that goes off, he just like.
I mean, that's his Punisher roar, man. That's a signature sound, man. He's got to do that when, like, because like you said, there's only like maybe a few episodes where he's truly the Punisher. Where he truly just goes, just fully like
And punishes.
yeah, and like towards the like second to last episode, yeah. I mean, like that episode, and then the final episode, I think is when he really does that a lot.
I'm quite curious. The second to last episode, I know with Game of Thrones, they tend to do the thing where it's like the second to last episode is the best one. Did they do the same thing with this one?
I mean, I hated that main, like they said, the CIA, the director of the CIA, William Rollins, the Agent Orange guy. I really hated him, so I was finally glad to see him finally get his comeuppance. Finally,
One of the best ways too.
yeah. I mean, it's really brutal the way he goes. I would say, for me, I would say maybe the second last episode is pretty good. It's probably better than the last episode. And it's crazy how, like I said, the Punisher gets beat up and shot up all throughout the series. And I like how they take the action different locations. Like there's one scene where he's taking the action in the woods. There's a firefight there. There's a scene in the hotel, Like, so they do take the action some other places, not just simply him going in a room and doing all that stuff. They do take it different places. But like I said, he gets shot up and beat up tons of times. And he just kind of walks it off like the next day. Like, he's got broken ribs and severe injuries, but he just goes back like next day, like a couple days later. Nope, nothing happened. I guess I can just walk around.
Does he stumble at all?
No, it doesn't even limp, nothing like that.
That's like one of the worst things about it. Like he's supposed to be human, but he gets up for things that most people would be way more out for much longer.
Yeah.
Even let's say all of it is basically anger and adrenaline.
Just
If
fucking
that's the way you want
moonwalks.
to play it.
Just moonwalks out of the room after he's done with a big gunfight and brawl.
Like you can argue, sure, maybe like he got pumped with morphine. Let's say he had a lot of morphine, and he would still be wobbling, he'd still be moving. Even if he can't feel the pain, it wouldn't be a good idea because the wounds could tear at any time. He could have internal bleeding, which then that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, that doesn't exist in this universe, man.
Yeah, internal, like, I'm sorry. They talked about that at least in Daredevil, and he didn't get shot.
Yeah.
I'm more surprised that they talked about it. Like,
It's a passing mention because he keeps getting beats up so much. Like she says at one point, or at least mentions, it's like, it's like, we better hope it's not internal bleeding, because like he's coughing blood from his mouth. Like that's internal bleeding, and if it's a big tear, that's just going to keep on going, and it could even, depending on where the hit is, it could go through the lungs, and if it gets in the lungs, you're done. You have to get surgery immediately, or you're gonna die. It's gonna fill up your lungs, and you'll die.
I'm so happy about that because these are clearly superhero shows for the most part. Like, it's very bizarre how these things happen. Even though they have the Night Nurse, she's just healing like superheroes, like Luke Cage, and just all type of crazy stuff. So that gave me some realism.
When the superheroes at that level, you're like, all right, I can live with that. But a regular bullet wound, even then, you gotta be a little bit more than just, nah, all right.
No.
He'll be all right.
He just walks up like
Yeah, all right.
nothing happens basically. Yeah, so I mean that's a little part of the series. Like, okay, I understand you trying to move forward with the action and do that stuff, but I was like, okay, that's a little ridiculous, and also I think one other really ridiculous thing I found in the series is just how they just kept giving him more chances because of how he just keeps getting out of prison. Like, like the final episode of the series, like, they arrested him and everything, and they say like, okay, hey, listen, this last time, if I ever see you again, you're gonna be locked up. Here he is, locked up again, and they just release him
For murder?
I mean, they know he murdered a bunch of people. They know he did it, but they just release him from prison. Like, well, all the stuff that you went through, I guess we're gonna cut you some slack. I'm like, well, I mean, the dude still murdered people. I mean, you just can't cut him some slack like that. And also in the series, his face was on every TV and magazine ever because he got wrapped up in like this terrorist plot that Lewis character was trying to do. Like the Lewis character turns into a terrorist, and he kind of got wrapped up in that. The news thought it was him. His face was everywhere. And you telling me that he can just go back to what he was doing in New York, that people won't recognize him? I was like, that's a little ridiculous.
Now this is national terrorists, right? Not like just neighborhood.
There was bombings. I mean, yeah, it was big news. Yeah, in all of New York, his face was probably everywhere, and he's just gonna go back to, I guess, going back on the street. I was like, I don't know how you gonna do that. Like allow that to happen. I was just like, that's a little ridiculous. Huh? The fact that they're just gonna let him out like that
because he's a superhero, man, like, or a villain or whatever, anti-hero.
Yeah, I guess because you gotta have Punisher season 2.
Exactly.
So you gotta do that. So I was like, okay, I guess they just gotta have that.
Hey man, if Clark Kent was on the news tomorrow, man, he'll still be out there saving the day. Like, you look familiar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for them to address that. Yeah, because we're talking about what happened in Justice League. Because like everybody knows Superman comes back to life, but how is he gonna come back to life and then
live his life?
Yeah, Clark Kent when he also does. So that's a whole other thing. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was a little ridiculous that he was able to do that. So you said you had an issue with the ending. So what was your big issue with the ending there?
It all stems back to, I would say, Miss Dina, or Dina's role in that. But I would say it stems equally to Dina and just the way it's handled by Homeland and security. So we're gonna get on to full-on spoilers because I just have to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you all want to skip and that wasn't enough for you, you can just skip to whatever end he puts in it, and we'll have our rating. All right. So at the end, Frank Castle, who had been beaten to a bloody pulp, murdered Agent Orange in the most horrible way possible.
Yeah.
Well, one of the most horrible way possible, because he did a few of those throughout the series. He's finally gotten most of his revenge, but there's one last guy out there, Billy the Butte.
Yeah.
So he goes after Billy, and they confront each other in the carousel. First of all, he gets let go just cause.
Yeah.
We could put you in custody. I know you did these horrible things, but we're gonna let you go.
Yep.
And this is before the ending.
Yeah.
This is before the ending. Lets him go. Oh wait, they have a fight in the middle of his carousel. Granted, that carousel fight is actually pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Having a fight in the like the horses?
Yeah, because that's where his family died.
Carousel, yes, because he's kidnapped a couple of kids, and that carousel is the same one that his family was at when they were murdered.
So it's poetic.
I was about to say poetic justice bullshit.
Yeah, poetic justice, Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah.
Oh god.
But during that fight, Billy gets one up, shoots him again. A few other times. At this point, I've counted. He has at least 6 to 7 bullet wounds over the course of things, not including the fact that he has armor on. He has probably internal bleeding. They had to perform that internal bleeding because his lungs were filling up with blood. So he just the morning before had that. He's still bruised and has makeup bruising on it, and he still fights him. And somehow, through basic luck, what's her name again? I'm sorry, Dina.
Madani.
Madani.
Yeah.
Madani shows up and then gets shot in the head.
All right.
And I'm like, well, actually, at that point, I'm like, oh, okay, she's dead now, and all that was for nothing. Okay. but at least that's better than whatever. Well, that's the end of her character,
Hey,
and that's all the way it is. But I didn't really care at that point. But then he gets up, finishes off Billy, and scratches his face against everything, and basically turns him into Jigsaw. But they don't want to call it Jigsaw.
Well, they haven't. I mean, maybe they'll do that next season and call him.
Yeah, no, of course, no. They're just actively they can't. Even the actors can't say it.
Yeah.
They know it is. They just won't say it.
Right.
Wait, is there a villain named Jigsaw, or are we talking about the movies?
His name is Jigsaw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Billy Russo is the Jigsaw.
Like, no relation to the Jigsaw movies, right?
No.
Okay.
No,
Just want to make
it
sure.
came out before the movies.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say if he's setting up traps, man, there's something wrong here.
No, he's more like just a crazy killer.
Yeah.
And they reference at one point that after the damage, like not only does he scar up his face, like he bashes his head against like the wall several times, and he even like asks him like just do it, just kill me. Yeah. And he's just like, no, I'm gonna let you live with yourself the way you look like. Yeah. And I'm like, all right then.
Yeah. And I will say, as much as I'm a person that watches anime and how wacky and zany that stuff can get, this is the craziest stuff, like the carousel, the fight, and just he's over here half dead, but he still walks like
I'm pretty sure anime has done that by far worse.
Yeah, that's
probably less and probably less well written.
And that's the thing I was getting at. This is basically anime, and the reason I like anime is because I know it's fake. Like with this, with most TV shows these days, I expect some realism, and it's like I kind of got pushed towards anime because it's so wacky and zany.
I mean, to be fair, I think that's what makes it more horrifying is that they play it in a fairly realistic way.
Yeah, because they talk about stuff like issues of gun control. They talk about that in the show.
Yeah. So at the very end, after everything's said and done, somehow Madani is not dead from a bullet wound to the head.
All right.
And she survives it somehow, and her character gets to go on being basically useless.
Are you trying to prove my point?
No, I mean, yes, actually. I'm going to be honest. I thought the whole Homeland Security thing was pointless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really even with all the stories converging. I know other people said, well, it has to be used. It has to. But there are a couple of threads that this series brings up, but ultimately just doesn't use or finish off properly. Like at the same time, it's so agonizingly slow at some points, but on others, it takes its sweet ass time to get somewhere. And then sometimes the other one, it just hurries up real quick. And that's the Lewis story. The Lewis story, they just pick that up and they throw that mother bumper into just a locker and finish that story. Consequences never to be seen nor heard from again. And the same thing with Madani. She's like, oh well, she I guess outsmarted two really smart people from the FBI and CIA and Homeland Security who's running for Secretary of State, I guess, or one of the other forms of really high control. And she's like, oh well, this will ruin me. This can ruin all of us. So we're just gonna give like a half truth and say that it was all on the dead guy, and avoid the fact that the American government actually did this. Like, why would Frank Castle ever agree to that?
Well, because he got his revenge. I mean, it's not like he has a mission to take down the government. I mean, he just has a mission to take down that one guy who's responsible.
Why Madani then?
Why Madani? What do you mean?
Madani is like such a white knight that I'm surprised she'd even let the concept of compromise enter her head.
Well, I mean, she probably understands the politics of the situation, and she got her white whale because she got the person who was responsible for killing her guy over there.
That is also another thing I wanted to bring up. Who cares?
Yeah, that was a big I didn't really care about that whole situation.
If I got to they could have easily episode 1. You have all these Frank Castle kind of get back. 2, we spend maybe the second episode. Well, he's that's the first episode kind of ends itself in its own loop, so you're good to go. And it kind of sets up like, oh, what's this going to be? In the second episode, you can maybe spend a little time with that guy who's about to be taken out.
Mm-hmm.
And I get to see his family. I get to see his character. I get to see how good of a person he is. I get to see a situation where they're close calls. And then it goes back and you see Dina and she kind of like waking up from something she's remembering him by. and then you understand why she's so adamant about it. You never get what their relationship is. Were they really good friends? Were they past lovers? Were I mean, if they're not lovers at all, that's fine. I don't care. But you got to establish a relationship.
I thought
She
they said that dude was just like a like informant or like
right.
a
It was an informant or very. If it's guilt on the fact that it's an informant, I need to see that.
mm,
We should be able to see that. You don't just walk in with a character introduction and be like, "Well, that's that."
yeah
You
yeah
had 13 episodes. 13 episodes. Really, this show should have been just 10.
yeah. I think they should have. I mean, this like you said with Dusky. I mean, where 90s is right here with like he's on episode 2. I think episode 2 through 5. It kind of it's like you could have cut a couple of those episodes. You didn't really need all those episodes.
Yeah, basically, especially when the argument basically ends on the same note over and over and over again, and you know how this is going to go.
Yeah.
Let's just skip the pretense and stop standing on ceremony.
So overall, I mean, what's your rating for it?
Oh man, we haven't even gotten to the whole Lewis thing.
Oh, I mean, I thought what they build up to it was pretty nice with him. I thought his whole story, like being a guy who really suffers heavily from PTSD, because
Right, he's supposed to be almost a what if of what Frank Castle could have been.
yeah,
Frank Castle is riding that line between being a complete irredeemable monster and trying to keep his humanity somewhat intact, a little bit, like the little bit that people are attaching to him. But this kid is slowly just losing it and slowly losing his mind, and you seeing it and you feel bad for him. You feel bad that whatever they're trying to get to him isn't working, and this kid needs real help, and this really needs help, and we're failing him, and you're supposed to feel that. But the way it's kind of treated and the way it's treated later, especially the way Punisher treats it, Frank Castle treats it, you're like, where are we going with this? And then the fact that he's eliminated so early on, and by the time that storyline ends, you go, that's it? That's all you were leading to?
it just felt like he was used to pad out the story a little bit.
Right. And that wasn't what it seemed like it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a real interesting storyline that kind of converged at the end. Like it was going to be the end storyline and be a really like heartbreaking moment. And you get to see some of the imagine even halfway through Luke Cage, where there's that moment where Cottonmouth finally gets arrested, and you get to see a little bit of the results of that and all that effort to bring it down, the people that die, the people that don't, and that they have to live through that. And especially the fact that they introduce his father and how his father tries to help him. He's not just letting him go and do nothing. He's trying to tell him, like, I love you. I've always been proud of you. I understand what it's like. And I don't pretend to know what it was like over there, but I want to be there for you. He's not being a dick or in a conventional way. He's trying to be what we all want to be. We all want to support the people we care about. And then we never get to see how that affects him when he finds out. We never get to see how that affects the loss of a veteran. I think that would have, of someone who knew a veteran, I think that would have been a really nice way to kind of end it. Maybe like a cold comfort coming from Frank maybe would have been nice, even a little bit, to show a little bit of humanity.
Right.
Maybe just a little bit from the connection that, maybe he couldn't help this kid, or this kid was too far gone, and maybe, I don't know, something. But it just gets dropped immediately, and it felt like it was pointless just to pad out the story. That's just how I felt about the series as a whole. For the most part, you get moments of glory and good, really solid action, but what little story and characterization you get really feels padded out and could have really been refined.
Yeah.
Why don't you go first? You rerate it.
I would say, with all the faults that we all named with the show, I think that it's still good. I would still recommend people see it. If you're looking for him to rampage all the way through, he's not going to do that. I mean, that's only like a select few episodes of the series, like some like one at the beginning and then a few at the end. But overall, I'd still say tune in. I think it's better than the last two series they did, Defenders and Iron Fist. If I had to rank the series now with this one added, I would say Daredevil Season 2, Jessica Jones, Daredevil Season 1, The Punisher, Luke Cage, Iron Fist. Defenders, and then Iron Fist.
I thought you were gonna say he's gonna be in Defenders too. Is that possible?
I don't know. I mean, they haven't had any discussions about that yet. Him being in Defenders too.
Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, Defenders it was kind of a letdown anyway. And I don't even know when they possibly could do another Defenders because like the CW shows, like they do their big crossovers, but those shows run concurrently, so it's like easy to like for them all to just do it. Scheduling wise, this one like all these series line up differently, like when they schedule, when they shoot. So I don't know when potentially they're gonna do Defenders season 2.
Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe
that would
we'll-
be fairly difficult in itself, especially with the different storylines going on right now.
Yeah.
Shit,
which-
I'll be amazed if they make another Iron Fist season.
Hey, I said it before, man. I think they should combine Luke Cage and
I agree wholeheartedly. They should agree it with and get a
Well,
Heroes for Hire going now.
Iron Fist is gonna be on Luke Cage season 2. Like he's gonna have
Oh,
a
thank goodness.
recurring part in that. So I think
And
they're
just-
trying to test the waters, see.
just keep it like
Hon-
that. Don't do anything more.
Man, honestly, I think they should just start over with Iron Fist.
Reboot it.
Reboot a TV show. That's
Yeah.
No, I mean like just start out, and by I mean start over, I mean just put another actor and just make a comment. Well, you look different. Yeah.
No.
That'd be great. Actually, I want that.
I don't. Again, I actually like the character of Iron Fist. I just don't like the way he's been used. But that's another comment. I'll talk about the Punisher just real quick. But finishing up, rating. I would agree. It's tune in. It's not exactly what I wanted from it, but it's not bad either.
No.
All the Homeland Security stuff you can just pretty much skip. They're not really important. And whatever they trying to try with this Madani character, it just doesn't sit. One of my pet peeves has always been when a character tells another character something about themselves that you should have learned from watching them.
Mm-hmm.
I hate that. I really do. And to
Right.
me, that's a mark of bad writing. I don't need Madani's mother, played by I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Shorey Agdashilo.
Yeah, that's pretty close. She was. I mean, you probably know who she is. She was the voice in Mass Effect 2. She was the.
Oh yeah, she was the voice of.
You never played
what's
Mass
an
Effect?
Admiral
Oh.
Ron, I believe.
Yeah.
Admiral Shalaran Vastonbe.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, she's got a very distinctive, smoky and languid voice. Very honestly, she would totally fit as as a jazz singer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
she was really good.
in any case, I didn't. What they kind of use the characters, they almost use them more useful than the Madonna character herself. And that's a shame if I have to say that, and I've spent far more time with that other character. I think you can tell that she's a new character, and they don't know what to really do with her. And you can tell they didn't know what to do with her partner because they got him out real quick. But to sum it up real quick, yeah, I would say tune in, but know that the Homeland Security parts are going to be boring. Lewis storyline isn't really going to be as fulfilling as you might like, and there's going to be a couple episodes which will feel like chores to get through.
Okay. So,
And that's bad.
so where does this rank all the other shows for you?
Daredevil season 1, Daredevil season 2. It just beats Jessica Jones just by a little bit.
Okay.
I would then say Luke Cage. No, actually, sorry, not Luke Cage. I would say, Luke Cage, because at least half of it I really loved. Like, absolutely. I'm sorry, 2/3 of it I really loved, and then the last third was kind of like, what the heck?
Okay.
And I'll put Frank Castle's The Punisher there, Iron Fist, then Defenders.
Okay. All right.
Yes, I know people will know, like, I'll put Defenders last, but you had more time for that.
Yeah.
Iron Fist is not the reason Defenders failed.
I mean, I think Defenders had an issue because they had to like rush to get there, and I think Iron Fist suffered from that because they had to rush and do Iron Fist because like
I know.
'cause we said that,
Honestly,
so-
that was they should have just waited.
Yeah, I'd agree.
yeah.
Like-
They should have just. You can tell from Iron Fist that was not a good director, and the writing needed a lot of work or some more work because parts of it were actually kind of good, and most of it was a mess.
Yeah.
And they didn't go really well. And the Defenders, you really can't see that it's rushed. It actually looking back, I think I was a little more forgiving on defenders.
I just think it was just a disappointment. It was just
No,
really
that's I
disappointing.
still stand by it, but I
Yeah.
think it was still I was a little more forgiving.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on.
Hello, thanks for checking out our content. If you liked it, let us know, and if you didn't, let us know that as well. If you want to see more content, we post every Saturday on SoundCloud and YouTube at The Afternoon Tune. You can also find us through various social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, all one word at The Afternoon Tune. And if you don't deal with any of that social media stuff, you can also find us through our email at theafternoontune@gmail.com. And don't forget to always stay tuned.